Hi, good day everyone. And for the next topic, we have diversity. Okay, so to start with, let us take a look at the definition given with the Greater Good Science Center. It states here that diversity refers to an obvious fact of human life. What is this obvious fact of human life? It is that there are many different kinds of people, which is true. We meet a lot of different kinds of people when interact with a lot of different kinds of people. Actually, the people you are interacting with every day are all different from you. And the idea that is diversity drives cultural, economic, and social vitality and innovation because if there is diversity, there is an inclusion, there is an acceptance despite all of those differences. Next, Garden Swartz and Rowe of 1994 described diversity as being like an onion. Why? Because like an onion, diversity has different layers, and those layers, after you peel away the first or the outer layers, you will be able to reveal the core. Okay, so what are these layers? Here is an image or the representation of the layers of diversity. We have the organizational dimension, external dimension, internal dimension, and the core is the personality. Okay, so when we talk about organizational dimension, these are the differences of people that are classified by the organization that they belong to. Yes, even if you belong to the same organization, there are still instances that you are different from one another, such as your functional level, your work or your content field, your department, your seniority, your work location, union affiliation, and your management status. Next, we have external dimensions. When we talk about external dimensions, these are the differences that can be controlled by the person, such as the geographic location, the income, personal habits, recreational habits, religion, educational background, work experience, appearance, parental status, and their marital status. But in contrary with that, we have the internal dimensions, which states that there are differences that no one can control or no one has the control over it, such as the age, the gender, the sexual orientation, the physical ability, ethnicity, and race. For example, if you're a Filipino, you are born as a Filipino, even if you're going to change your citizenship, you cannot change the fact that you are a Filipino. So that is internal dimension. And then we also have the core, which is the personality. When we talk about personality, these are the traits or the characteristics of a person that dictates how he or she will react in a certain situation. And personality can be affected by internal, external, and the organizational dimensions. For example, the personality of this girl is that she is intelligent. She is very knowledgeable. That is because her personal habits, which falls under the external dimension, is reading books. Okay, so the three can affect the personality. That is why it is in the core. And then we also have the categories of diversity. Actually, the categories of diversity is almost similar to the layers of diversity. We have internal diversity, the external diversity, the organizational diversity, and the worldview diversity. When we talk about the internal diversity, these are the differences of people that is affected by their characteristic ever since they are born. What are these examples? For example, their age, their race, their sexuality. Okay, so these are the characteristics that no one can change it. No one can change it. Even if you are the most powerful person, you cannot change it. And then the external diversity, these are the characteristics or the differences of people that they can control or they have the control over it. They can change it. And these are usually influenced by other people and by their surroundings. For example, the religion. Your parents taught you, or you grow up in this kind of religion, but as you grow up, as you grow older, the people around you influence you to change your religion. So that is external diversity. Next, the organizational diversity is also called functional diversity, which talks about the differences of people that are assigned to them by an organization. So these are the characteristics within a workplace that distinguishes one employee from another. For example, their department. What department do you belong? They belong in the human resources department, or they belong in the marketing department. So there are still differences even if you have the same organization. Next is the worldview diversity. This worldview diversity talks about the conceptualize the world differently, and we have new experience and learn more about ourselves and each other. So our perspectives about the world changes over time. For example, before you think that the world that people around are you are the center of the attraction on your house, in your family. But as you grow older, you realize that you will not always be the center of the attraction. That is because you have new experiences, you experience new things in life that helps you in changing your perspectives. And then we have five importance of the diversity. Actually, there are a lot of importances of diversity. And these importances are not only important today, but are also important in the past and also in the future. First is the growing acceptance, diminishing discrimination. If we will be able to have an exposure, an interaction with people that are different from us, we will be able to understand where are they coming from, why are they acting like this, and you will be able to remove the discrimination. For example, you think poorly about this group of people just because you don't, or their practices are different from you, but because you are exposed to them, you will be able to realize that this is their culture, and this is what they've been following ever since, and then you will be able to finally remove the judgment from you. And then we have the becoming a global citizen. Actually, this is the second, or this is one of my favorite thing about diversity, because if you are exposed to different kind of people, different kind of cultures, traditions, it will be easy for you to move from one place to another and to survive. For example, you grow up in the Philippines, but you meet a lot of people that are different from your culture. You met a lot of people from the other side of the world, and you move to their place. It will be easy for you to cope up because you know their cultures, you know their traditions, what are the don'ts and do's, or do's and don'ts of their place. Okay? And then next we also have perspective. When we talk about perspective, you can be able to form a new perspective just by being exposed to different kinds of people, because their experiences might open your eyes, or it might be an eye opener for you to be able to realize that your perspective is kind of limited, and there are a lot of new perspective for you to know and for you to be able to grow. Number four, we will be able to have a richer life experiences. How? Because if we meet a lot of people, or the different people also have different ideas, different views, different practices, and because of that, you will be able to gain new things from them, learn from it, and improve from it. Last, it is the productivity, because there are, if you are exposed to different kind of people with different kind of background, of course they also have different kind of life experiences, and those differences will be able to generate ideas that maybe you didn't think of it, you didn't consider of it before, but it is not that bad. For example, in a group activity, for example, you are all different, and um, you have this kind of project. If you are working alone as a leader, you cannot, your ideas are limited. But if you work together as a group, this person or this member might share his or her insights, the other one too, and every one of you, then you can combine it. Okay, so that is why diversity is very important. And of course, diversity doesn't only start when you interact with different kinds of people. Once you have your work, or once you are, or you're already a grown up. Actually, education aids in shaping the diversity. It has a very big role in the success of diversity. Why? Because first, it encourages more tolerance. If students are thought about the differences of people, that there are we what are their differences, why are they different, the students will be able to understand and accept it, and that will help in them having a friendship with other kind of people. Next, it also helps in having or in building better thinkers. Why? Because if you are exposed to different backgrounds and perspectives, the students will be able to think broadly. For example, if this student is exposed to another student with another culture, he will be able to think, is it bad for them? What should I do? Who is this kind of person, and so on. So his thinking skills will be improved. That is why diversity is also important. Next, we have build stronger communities. Why? Because if students are taught properly about diversity, okay, so they will be able to have this sense of civic engagement. Why? Because in a community, people are also different. And if diversity is already taught to the child, to the student, to the person, he will be able to interact with the people around the society. And that's what make a strong community, the interaction and the unity of people living in it. However, even if there is education, even if diversity is very important, we cannot change the fact that it is also challenging to accept. There are different barriers that stop the success of diversity. One, communication issues, the very common. Okay, why? Because we have different languages, and um, we doesn't use the same language most of the time. For example, um, you're an Ilocano and you're talking to a Kapampangan. So that's different. And that might sometimes cause misunderstanding. Then the communication styles are the preferences that both sides want. And then sometimes the inner factors such as hearing loss also affects in the communication of two diverse people or diverse group. Next, it can also cause cultural misunderstanding, because if you do not know the culture of the person, you might do something that is not appropriate for them, and that might cause misunderstanding. For example, you tap the back of a person and you do not know that in their culture it is offensive to tap the back of others. That is why it is also hard to interact with people that are different from you. Next, the slower decision making. Why? Because the differences of the people can hinder the progress towards the goals. Because, for example, you're doing your group activity, and then there's a lot of perspective and no one wanted to meet in the middle. You always want your perspective to be heard. So that causes the decision making to become slow. Next, inequitable inclusion. When we say inequitable inclusion, from the word inclusion, include, you have to include everyone in to be able to call diversity a success. And including everyone is also hard because it needs a lot of work. For example, you're a group of friends and one of your friends doesn't understand your native language. Okay, you're a group of Ilocanos and one of your friend is a Tagalog and he doesn't know what are you talking about. So you have to translate everything to him, or you have to talk in Tagalog even if you're not comfortable with it. And that is um very hassle for most of us. So that is why sometimes you would rather choose not to interact with people that are different from you. And then lastly, the never-ending discrimination, which also sometimes leads to harassment and abuses. Okay, and this is the hardest, I think, to fight against discrimination. For example, the LGBTQ community, right? They usually faces a lot of discrimination just because they are different from other people. The person with disabilities, okay? And that's all actually for the diversity. But before I end this, I would like to say, or I would like to tell everyone that if you're interacting with a person that is different from you, learn how to learn how to um, learn how to be nice to them, because you do not know on the other side, on their side, they are also having a hard time dealing with you.